wrap up, there's a storm coming. Here are 19 reasons to watch Storm of the Century. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dave Musson, at Dave Musson on Instagram, and this is the place where I talk to you about all things Stephen King. And I said Instagram really weirdly there, didn't I? Who gives? I don't. Anyway, I've lost my train of thought already. This is where I talk to you about Stephen King, and I am going through all the movies and adaptations of Stephen King's work, and we've reached 1999 and something of an underrated gem, Storm of the Century. I'm very excited to talk to you about it. Do check out the links in the description for my Stephen King quiz book, which includes a quiz on Storm of the Century, and links to my fiction, to my newsletter, podcast, all of those kind of things. But more than anything, thank you so much for stopping by and checking this video out. I really hope you like it. So, Storm of the Century, a 3-episode mini-series that came out in 1999, directed by Craig Baxley, written by King, of course, and totally worth your time. In fact, Stephen King himself puts it among the 10 best adaptations of his work. He lists it in the Stephen King Goes to the Movies book, and he regularly shouts it out, even though technically it's not an adaptation because he wrote it for screen. But you get the idea. King loves it, I love it, and I'm excited to tell you why in this video. Now, if you've not seen Storm of the Century yet and you're worried about potential spoilers here, well, there might be some spoilers, but what I will do, as I always try to do, is hide them behind a spoiler alert. So at that point, you can skip ahead to the outro using the timestamp below, or you can bail altogether if you need to. The point being, you won't have anything spoiled for you if you don't want it to, or you can just watch all the way and check out my full 19 reasons. Now, this one, for a long time, was available on YouTube, and King himself tweeted the link to it on YouTube, which is handy for those of us in the UK. Well, I haven't checked if it's still on YouTube, but probably is, right? Those within the UK, not available on a streaming service at the moment. In the US, it's out there on Hulu, so you can go and watch it. But you know, given that King himself used to advocate us going and watching it on YouTube, I'm sure if you need to do some creative searching, the man would not mind at all. He wants you to watch this, I want you to watch this. So let's go and watch it. Oh, and don't forget, you can also buy a book of the screenplay of this. I have it on my shelf back there somewhere, and I covered that book in a separate video, which I will pop a link to in the description, and I'll pop a link to up there if you haven't had a chance to check that one out yet. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, get on with it, Dave Musson. Get on with the video, just start the video, that's what we pay you for. And well, yeah, I guess it is. So I'll give you what you want, and then we can all go away afterwards, okay? Here are 19 reasons to watch Storm of the Century. So my main reason for watching this is just how freaking good it is. Like, stumbling across Storm of the Century, which, as I remind you, is not based on a book, was written for screen. Stumbling across this series is like unearthing a hidden, forgotten about, lost King novel. And a really good lost King novel or story, not just some random thing that had been shoved in a trunk and left to rot. And there's so much here that plays to the strengths not only of King, but also to what we want as a community of constant readers. What am I talking about? I'm talking small community, big sprawling cast, everyone knows each other's business, lots of dark secrets. I'm talking maximum Maine in terms of accent and setting, and I'm talking this ordinary nice community with these ordinary folk being thrown into something absolutely extraordinary by the arrival of some mysterious outsider. It ticks so many boxes and delivers brilliantly. Like, you're convinced already, right? You want to watch, don't you? I know. Now, I will admit that at like 4.5 hours long, this is a serious time commitment. But honestly, it is worth it. This is a compelling watch throughout. And it's even more impressive given that this was on network television, which basically means you're looking at a PG-13 rating. And yet, it is so scary. There are some great sequences in this. There's this looming sense of dread throughout that just hooks you in, and it is not afraid to go dark when it needs to either. It is deeply unnerving, and it achieves that through great storytelling rather than just relying on violence and cheap jump scares. So the hook here is a pretty simple one. We are on Little Tall Island. Yep, that's where Dolores Claiborne was set. And we're there in 1989, joining the residents as they're starting to batten down for one mother of the storm.
This is going to be one bad mother of a storm.
The titular storm of the century. However, just before the snow starts falling, this stranger arrives. And he announces his arrival by brutally murdering one of the island's residents and then calmly letting himself be incarcerated by the town's part-time constable, Mike Anderson. And full name is important, as you will discover.
You need to relax, Mike Anderson.
And that's Mike Anderson doing what they pay him his money for, by the way. So this stranger, he's called Andre Lenoge, and he keeps saying, "Give me what I want and I'll go away."
Give me what I want and I'll go away.
But that's not all he says. He also seems to know everybody in town's secrets, and he's quite happy to spill them out there whenever he gets the chance, causing lots of worry among the residents, as you might expect. Then the storm hits and people start dying by suicide. Only is it really suicide? And people start getting even more worried and things go pretty dark. And what does Lenoge want? And why has he chosen Little Tall to come here on this mission? Well, slowly we find out and we discover what an awful decision this community that knows how to keep a secret, has to make. Are they going to do it? What choice are they going to take? So for me, director Craig Baxley does a great job across this mini-series. He builds dread throughout and gives us something that is eminently watchable. And King must have enjoyed working with him because he would go on to work with him again for Rose Red. That spun out into The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer, and they would work together again on Kingdom Hospital. None of those are as good as Storm of the Century by a long distance, but we'll come to that in due course. Now, I've mentioned this is a long watch, but there's very little fat to trim off here. Episode 1 is excellent, really sets the scene brilliantly, hooks you in and makes you want to know who in the hell is this Lenoge guy and what the fuck is he doing here? What the fuck does he want? Episode 2, I'll admit, possibly drags in some places and yet has some of the best set pieces in this series and has a terrific final 30 minutes. And then episode 3 pulls it all together wonderfully with just loads of scary stuff, loads of big moments, and without spoilers, one heck of an ending. I actually rewatched this over 3 consecutive nights and I had a lovely time with it. Something I enjoyed in this is sort of the quirky mainisms we have here. So, as I've already alluded to, everyone seems to refer to each other by their full name.
Mike, where's Mike Anderson?
You need to relax, Mike Anderson.
Which I guess is fine if you're looking to distinguish between one another, but guys, this is like a town of 200 people. How many Mikes are there, for example? And also, while we're talking Mike, that's Mike Anderson, the town are obsessed with the fact that he earns money to be their constable. They elected him to this role. They chose to give him this opportunity. And he earns $6,000 a year in 1989. I looked that up. That's like $15,000 a year now. That's not a lot of money, folks, particularly when you chose him to do that role.
Those are the decisions we pay him to make, aren't they, dear?
These little insights into the main mind, fascinating. So let's pick out some of the cast members, starting with Tim Daly, who plays Mike Anderson, and he is like your stereotypical classic king white male lead. He's rugged, he's handsome, he's decisive, he's kind of God-fearing, he's respected, he's thoughtful, he's flawed in some areas, but he's ultimately someone who is likeable and you want to win out. And Tim Daly's performance is excellent and really gives this the driving force from the residents, from the good side, that you really do need to buy into it. We also have a regular of King adaptations, Jeffrey DeMunn, as the town's manager, which is a role I do not understand, and if anyone can explain it, please do in the comments, because how do you manage a town anyway?
There's more than one thing that a town manager can do, you know.
His attitude, his arrogance, and to be honest, even his fashion choices make me want to punch him in the face, which is exactly what that character needs to do. So that must mean Jeffrey DeMunn nailed it, right? There are a bunch of kids in this as well who are equal parts cute and annoying. just like kids in real life. They're all really young as well, which I think is probably because all the school-age kids would have been at school on the mainland, and then the storm hits and they can't get back. And anyway, the kids become important, so I wanted to mention them here.
Sorry, honey, you shouldn't be singing now, okay? This is story time.
I was looking through the cast, no big names seems to have grown out of this, but for child actors, they're pretty good. For child actors on TV, yeah, acceptable. There are also a couple of other notable turns here. So we've got Casey Siemaszko, who plays Hatch, and you might recognise him from a couple of the Back to the Future films and also from Stand By Me. And also a face you will almost certainly recognise, even if you're not entirely sure where from until you look him up on Letterboxd or IMDb. But that's Dennis Frost, one of the creepiest faces in cinema, but playing a good guy here. And we also get a King cameo. If you squint on that cracked up TV, you'll see him in a little advert, a little commercial there. But the real star of this, and the main reason to watch it is, and I'm gonna completely fucking butcher the name pronunciation here because it's Irish and I'm never sure, but it's Colm Feore. Colm Feore. It's the guy who plays Andre Lenoge. He's fucking wicked. Honestly, chilling to the core, snarky, sneering, terrifying, sadistic, dead eyes of the shark, all-powerful, completely commanding performance. And he does all that in some quite terrible genes as well, but honestly, he is great. Quite possibly one of my all-time favourite Stephen King villains, in fact. And, well, there's no book version of him, so it's all on it's all on this guy. And he knocks it out of the park. Colm Feore. Him. Okay, so lastly, before spoilers, I want to underline again just how good I think this is. So I reckon if this had been based on a novel, the novel would be one that would comfortably sit in King's top 20 of all time. And if this were converted to a novel now, it would be the best thing Stephen King has released since 11/22/63. By a distance. That's how much I like it, people. And if you haven't checked it out yet, you definitely should. Okay, after this point, I'm going to be picking out some of my favourite moments, talking about a couple of things that might ruin a first time watch, so consider this your spoiler alert, and if you need to bail here, you can do. Just go down in the description, find the timestamp for the outro, and I'll see you on the other side. But otherwise, stick around because I've got a few more reasons for you to watch Storm of the Century coming right up. Okay, let's talk about what Lenoge actually wants then, shall we? So we discover that Lenoge is this kind of being older than time, and basically he wants an heir, he wants a replacement. He wants one of the town's children to take away with him, train him up to be whatever it is he actually is, and he says if they give him one, then he'll go away and he'll leave them to it. And to sort of force the town's hand, basically he does some weird trippy nonsense with the wolf head on top of his cane, manages to knock all the kids into a trance, and while still talking to the residents of Little Tall, on a different plane of existence, he's also up in the sky, way up in the sky, holding on to all the children flying around with them. And he says that basically, if you don't give me one of these kids, I will drop all of them to their deaths, and then I will make all of you adults walk out there into the storm and jump into the sea and commit mass suicide, basically. Just like the little community of Roanoke. This Little Tall Island will be this ghost town where, when the storm clears, there's nobody left over and nobody knows what's going on. So that's his offer. Give me what I want, one of those children, and I will go away. Otherwise, I will kill all your kids. I mean, it's a big decision, right? What would you do in that scenario? If this was your community that some guy had turned up for, would you sacrifice one person of your community, supposedly for the greater good of everyone? And would you do it if it was your child? Big questions. So it's time to talk favourite scenes, and I'm going to pick one out from each episode. So for episode 1, I really like the scene where Lenoge is being walked through the supermarket to the prison cell at the back, because it's such a little island, they don't have a police station, yada 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 yada. But I love that bit where he's just like walking through the town's residents and just being like, boom, I know your secret, boom, there's your secret, and just spilling them out to everyone.
How's the fish business? Not so good, is it? Lucky you've got the marijuana business to fall back on.
Great, classic King villain work there. But actually, my favourite part of this episode is the bit right at the end when Lenoge basically forces a couple of people to die by suicide. And it is brutal, particularly the axe in the face. Oof. Episode 2 is the bit where the town are all out watching the lighthouse fall over, and then a few of them just get grabbed into the storm. Yoink, yoink, yoink.
That's right, buddy, the lighthouse is gone! Hey, Ange, did you see it? Hey, Angie?
And for episode 3, it's a moment that you kind of realise is coming, where the child that gets chosen to be taken away is Mike Anderson's child. That's not so much the moment I pick out. My favourite bit is the fact that Lenoge actually takes him. Like, you're still there thinking, Mike Anderson's going to sort this. Mike Anderson's going to come through. That's what they pay him the money for. But good does not win here. He actually takes him. And it's like, fuck.
Please. Bring him back. Anything you want.
As for my favourite line of the whole thing, well, we're back with Mike Anderson, and it's right at the end where he's talking to his friend Hatch, and he completely devastatingly cuts through him by just saying, well, you still got your daughter. No coming back from that.
But you've got your daughter at least.
Okay, time to explore connections among the cast and crew to other King adaptations and any Easter eggs that might appear here. So we've already mentioned Craig Baxley and what he would go on to direct. We've obviously got King appearing as well. Jeffrey DeMunn had already been in Shawshank at this point, in the adaptation, not the prison, and would go on to be in The Green Mile and The Mist. Oh, and Casey Siemaszko being in Stand By Me, of course. Those are the connections I spotted. When it comes to Easter eggs, well, obviously there are a few. We're on Little Tall Island, I already mentioned. Dolores Claiborne, that's where that's set. There is an explicit reference to the events of Dolores Claiborne right here.
Dolores Claiborne, whatever she did with her husband during the eclipse.
There's a little mention of Derry. There's a mention of The Reach, which is a short story, of course. And there feels like, at least for me, a couple of nods to The Shining. There's like an axe going through a door. And we also have this moment where everyone has a shared bad dream, which is something we see in The Stand. Those are what I spotted. Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about that ending. Now, if we are compiling a list of Stephen King's bleakest and most effective endings, Storm of the Century has to absolutely be in that conversation. Not only does Mike Anderson's son Ralphie get taken, but the rest of the episode after that is just so fucking dour. Like, pretty much everyone is miserable to the point of dying, either by suicide or just dying because they can't cope. They just shut down. Like, nobody's happy. This secret of what happened in 1989 just eats away at everyone. And Mike Anderson, he leaves. He gets the fuck out of Dodge. And he gets as far away as he can do in mainland America and ends up in San Francisco. And 10 years later, we see him and we're kind of like, maybe he's getting through. Maybe he's okay. And then he fucking sees Lenoge and Ralphie walk past and still doesn't get that moment. You're thinking, oh, there we go. It was a false ending. He's going to win Ralphie back now. He's going to triumph. No. Absolute fucking gut punch of an ending. And it is fantastic. I am totally down with it. A completely miserable note after nearly 5 hours of television. Bring it on.
We're gonna sit here and we're gonna wait out this storm.
So there we go, 19 reasons to watch Storm of the Century. Let me know what you think of this one in the comments. Have you watched it? Has it been a while? Are you new to it? What do you think of that ending? Let me know in the comments. In the description, you'll also see links to my Stephen King quiz books, my fiction, newsletter, podcast, all of those kind of things. If you're able to check out any of those, really appreciate it. But most of all, thank you so much for watching this one. Maybe tell a friend about it. And hey, if you're not already subscribed, click that button, then you won't miss any videos in the future. And talking to videos in the future, well, coming up, we're nearly at the end of the 90s, but there's a couple more adaptations to get through first. And the next one is the sequel we never knew we even needed.